All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are back again to do another Drakova build. Apparently, this is Drakova versus Balance slash Hunters. I'm assuming Balance he means like Balance Druids specifically, but I could be wrong. So, the overarching theme with this build, he didn't really read too much into this at all. Like I read his comments in Discord, and his comments were basically MP5, can't kill me, kill pet, kill hunter. So one of the big, as you'll see with this build generally, it's just the MP5 number. Let's find the MP5. HP5? Oh, okay. MP5, where are, 81. Okay, so this build's got like 121 MP5. Seriously? Thank you. I just got... This build's got like 121 MP5 with Blessing of Wisdom. I'm actually really tired right now, so if I sound weird, then yeah, whatever. And the general theme with going MP5 versus a hunter, especially with a shield, you can see he's starting with a two-hander here versus specifically... he's going to kill the pet, basically, first, and that is the correct action to take. Afterwards, you would switch into like the MP5 shield off of Ragnaros, and like a fast one-handed weapon, particularly a Muggerhurt specifically. But what the? You're just not going to stop, are you? Add covered content. See this multiple ad wasn't it? What the? What? No, go away. Shoo. Well, they change it every time. Check this out. Thank you. Fuck off. Okay, so the general strategy here versus the hunter is a hunter basically has three sources of DPS. The first source of DPS is from their pet, the second source is from their mana, and the third source is from their just innate white auto-attacking damage. So the moral of the story with a hunter is hunters cannot do enough damage to kill you through your MP5. I guess I just gotta leave that. Cannot do enough damage to kill you through your MP5 once their pet is dead. And they cannot, while you still have mana in your mana bar, they can't do enough damage to you to kill you without putting their pet on you. So the hunter finds themselves in this bit of a quandary where they can't kill you without the pet on them, without sicking their pet on you. If they do sick their pet on you, you're supposed to target down and focus the pet. One of two things happen when you target down and focus the pet. I should also point out that you can go all out on killing the pet. You can use your stun, you can use your grenades, you can use your bubble. You just want to blow that pet right the fuck up, basically. And even if you fail to kill the pet, assuming you didn't bubble and fail to kill the pet, which would be something of a disaster, you do enough damage to the pet that it forces the pet back, and then the hunter's back to square one, basically, which is they do not have enough DPS with their auto attack damage alone, and the damage coming from their mana bar to overcome your healing while you still have a mana bar. And the two of you's healing your mana bars will go down about the same time at about the same rate. And at some point, your MP5 will just start outpacing everything. And it becomes very apparent that you cannot be killed. If you have enough MP5, you simply cannot be killed. I guess I can take off my hat. So, Drakova, knowing this, he loves MP5 versus hunters. And one thing he pointed out quite correctly in his lock video, which I find that I kind of missed, which is kind of interesting, is even though he cannot heal very well at all in his Holy Reckoning build, because all these builds are for Holy Reckoning, if I haven't mentioned that already, is he has no spiritual focus, and God help him, he has no points in improved concentration aura, so he has almost non-existent pushback immunity when he's casting a healing spell. However, as he pointed out, the damage-absorbed trinkets such as Arena Grandmaster or the AB trinkets They really help you here because when you put a bubble on yourself, it also until it breaks, it cancels pushback. So one of the reasons why he put AGM on his Warlock build, and he has AGM here too, is it gives him the opportunity to get a couple holy lights into himself if need be, on top of the fact that it can be used offensively as well as defensively. That's why you see this instead of a rejuvenating gem. A rejuvenating gem here would also be 110,000% acceptable for virtually, how do I put this? Arena Grandmaster is definitely better if you're a Ret Reckoning build, specifically because you really need that to help you heal. But for just about any other Paladin spec, be that Deep Holy or Holy Reckoning or even Deep Ret, you're probably better off going with a rejuvenating gem here for reasons we'll talk about in a moment. It's more MP5 and it's plus healing, which is very important. So where was I? I want to explain why the healing is important. Have I missed anything? You killed a pet. You have MP5. Can you guys tell I'm tired? So he's like I said, he's opening here with a two-hander. He's going for the pet. Once the pet is dead, he will likely be switching into a one-hander, specifically Mugahurt, which we'll talk about in a second. But the overall flow of the combat is your number one priority is to kill the pet. Or to do so much damage to the pet that the hunter doesn't dare sick it on you, basically. Which is the same effect, essentially. What else is there? It's late at night here, so if you hear a bunch of honking outside, it's a side effect of living in a big city. God, my brain just doesn't work. What the hell, man? MP5, Right, so at the beginning, you're going to try to kill the pet. You're trading mana with the hunter. They really like to use rank 1 Viper Sting, which trades at about a 1-to-1 mana efficiency with your cleanse. So they Viper Sting you, you cleanse it. They Viper Sting you, you cleanse it. They Viper Sting you, you cleanse it. And this goes on for a while until both you and the hunter run out of mana. Pet may or may not be dead, but at some point, both you and the hunter are going to run out of mana. And what the hunters like to do is they like to try to trap you, and they like to try to get some drinks in while you're stuck in an ice trap. And the sad, simple truth of it is, somewhere between your spirit regen and your MP5 regen over the course of that fight, it's not going to matter. You're always going to be in the blue, and the hunter's always going to be out of the blue. That's basically the moral of the story. You're going to have mana, the hunter's not going to have mana. End of discussion. That takes place around about, I don't know, like 2 or 3 minutes. About 2 minutes into the duel, the hunter's like completely He's living on his ice traps, but it doesn't freaking matter because your MP5 is just rolling along, giving zero shits. So the number one thing to talk about is, what does your TOT look like against a hunter? What does your time on target, I am going for a kill scenario, look like on a hunter with a build like this? And here's where things get kind of interesting, because this is a Ret Reckoning build, right? So every other Paladin spec can heal in combat, right? At any point in time, they can just stop and heal themselves. Ret Reckoning, not so much. So what I'm about to describe may not work specifically with this build, but since the vast majority of the player base is not using that build, I'm just going to talk about it anyway. So this tactic assumes you can heal your dumbass, basically is what I'm saying. And that tactic basically evolves around rank 1 Flash of Light. This is why plus healing is important. As you all should know by now, rank 1 Flash of Light has a ridiculous spell power coefficient. It's like 45% or 50% or something like that. So what that means is, if you throw Blessing of Light on yourself and you go for rank 1 Flash of Light, and you even have remotely somewhat spell power gear. So you can see here his plus healing in this gear set, because I think he's using, no he's not, is like 320. Even if it's only around 300, which is pretty typical, your flashes of light with Blessing of Light on them will be healing for like 330 hit points for 35 mana. There is no fucking way in hell that a hunter's DPS can compete with that level of just efficiency of healing, especially when they're and their pet is dead and the MP5 is just keeping you in the blue permanently. So basically, at any point in time, you can just, all the other paladins, not this paladin, let me reiterate that, not the Ret Reckoning paladin, but all the other paladins at any point in time with the MP5 gear and the spell power gear can just stop and start rank 1 flash of lighting themselves and basically laugh off any and all damage the hunter does. So what your kill move looks like is the hunter is out of mana, the pet is either dead or it's like at 10% life and he refuses to sick it on you. You bother to spend the time to heal yourself to full, right? Like over the course of this fight, even if that takes you like a holy light that you had to just go, okay, fine, I'm going to do a holy light right here. Boom, I'm back to full mana. You basically try to wiggle the hunter into a corner by running parallel to them. And if I could show this, it would be really nice, but I might pull up like something I don't want to pull up. But basically, you're running parallel to them. So if you run straight at a hunter in a duel, he's going to kite you forever, and there's nothing you can do. So basically what you want to do is you want to run parallel to the direction that the hunter is running, but slowly closing the distance. So you all know this. If you've done enough duels trying to chase down a guy, you know, especially if they're faster than you don't run right at them. You run parallel to them, and you slowly close the distance. You slowly push them up against that wall by using centering tactics, basically, is what it's actually known as. And once you get them close to that wall, well, it's not even that. Let me take that back. Pushing them up against a wall is more of a Spelladin or a deep ret. Not even deep ret. That's more of a deep holy or a holy reckoning tactic. But you're always trying to do that anyways. 9 times out of 10, I take it back. I'm completely wrong. This is what your TOT looks like. Either you push them up against a wall and they're forced to use an ice trap, which you should always be doing because it'll let you get in like a hit or two. Or they're just kind of forced to use an ice trap. Sometimes they're dumb enough to just scatter shot you and then run up to you and then ice trap you. And if you're using frost resist aura, which you always should be when you're suspecting an ice trap is coming, if you just resist that ice trap, the hunter is up shit creek without a paddle, especially if they're out of mana and their pet is all but useless to them. And this is your cue to go pure time on target with them. And the 3 items you're going to want to use for time on target are, let me see if I can go pull up another WoW head. Discombobulator Ray. Yes, okay. The 3 items you're going to want to use are our previously discussed Mug of Hurt, the Discombobulator Ray if you've seen it before. I mean, if you've seen any of the previous videos. So Discombobulator Ray here, if you're having trouble reading it, it says reduces melee and spell damage by 40 and targets movement speed by 20% for 12 seconds. It's got a 1-minute cooldown. So the idea here is once you're physically on top of a hunter with a Mug of Hurt and their option to ice trap you is gone, their options get extraordinarily limited extraordinarily quickly. And their only option is that they need to hamstring you. It's not really a hamstring, it's called wing clip. So they need to wing clip you and try to get you slowed down within those 4 seconds or however many seconds it is in between your freedoms, basically, right? So freedom has like a 20-second cooldown. If you have it spec'd, it has a 16-second duration, which naturally any paladin and their dog tries to have it spec'd. So there's only this 4-second window in freedom that they can slow you. You can't really keep up with them, and they can get just enough distance in that amount of time that they can kind of get away from you. Well, what really stops that are things like Discombobulator Ray. So well, for starters, you save your stun for that moment, right? So you got like 16 seconds of freedom. That wears off. You stun them. And then your freedom's back up. Okay, another 16 seconds goes by. And then you're like using discombobulate array to slow them down so you can keep on top of them. Then that 4 seconds disappear. Well, that 12 seconds disappears. Jesus. And then, or 4 seconds or whatever. You get the point. So during this window where you can't freedom out of their slow, and that's their ticket to get away from you, that's when you bring out the stun, the discombobulate array, and or the reason why you're using Mugahurt in general is because Mugahurt will proc so often and the proc lasts so long that Mugahurt will do 90% of the work for you under the vast majority of circumstances. That statement becomes ungodly definitive if you have Frost Oil on your weapon. But if you don't have Frost Oil on your weapon, like you're in a dueling tournament or some stupid shit like that, then Mugahurt slow alone will do most of the work for you, so you don't have to use your stun too much. You don't have to use the discombobulate array. If they grenade stun you and then they run away from you, just grenade stun them back and catch back up and kind of laugh at them. In that case, you can't use discombobulate array anymore. But again, we're still on the timetable of Mugahurt is your boy. So just Mugahurt slow alone and the 6-second stun, 9 times out of 10, it can get the job done to kill a hunter. The hunter is low mana, they have very low options, they're low life, they can't get away from you, they're just going to fucking die. So the whole purpose behind all this MP5 is basically to last long enough and make yourself so unkillable against the hunter that inevitably you get the chance to close with them, inevitably you resist a frost trap, and inevitably you get into that endless chain of the hunter can't get away from you, the hunter can't get away from you, oh god I'm dying, I can't get away from this fucking paladin, oh god I'm dead. And you can see that pretty much with his gear in spades. So if we go over the gear, he's got a 5-piece T2. I'm pretty sure he's got some rank gear around here. Yeah, he's got 3-piece rank gear because he wants the 10-second reduction on the stun duration. Because again, that stun chain really doing it for you. He's got spell power. Spell power just kind of comes naturally with the T2, but then you start looking at Mugahurt, and Mugahurt's just like, let's fucking go! So, yeah, it synergizes extremely well. If his Grandmaster's on cooldown, highly suggest a Rejuvenating Gem for rank 1 Flashes of Light and just for more MP5. Other options are, theoretically, Frost Reflector, but Frost Reflector requires a lot of skill, and the really amazing thing about this build is that it does not require much skill at all. Okay, let me start thinking about this from a Reckoning's perspective, because I covered the perspective of you can heal your own damn self. And Drakova also suggests that, yeah, no, he's using two-hander to kill Pet, and then he's going into a one-handed shield combo, which means he's probably insane if he's not using Mugahurt, because of the reasons we discussed. But yeah, so that's, let me think, is there anything else to the hunter? So, now that I'm thinking about it, it is very important to do the parallel strafe running, chasing the hunter to try to force them up against a wall. Because if you don't, hunters can theoretically kite you forever. Especially if you don't have ranged attacks or anything like that. Like, you can catch them on a grenade and you can get over there. Kind of, but then they like scatter shot you and they just get their distance again. I'm not entirely sure, but I think scatter shot can be blocked, and if you block it with a scatter shot, or if you block it with a shield, then it doesn't affect you. If the fight goes long enough, though, your bubble comes into play. Like, either it came off a cooldown when you killed the pet, or it just straight up came off of cooldown again. And that option kind of goes away, so let me think about that. So you grenade the hunter, you catch up to the hunter, you're like, okay, let's do this. He comes out of the grenade prematurely, or not prematurely. He comes out of the game. He's at a range that he comes out of the grenade with plenty of time that he can scatter shot you. The scatter shot succeeds. You bubble it anyways. You keep closing. Maybe you stun him with your 6-second stun to really get on top of him. Now you're physically on top of him. Now his only option for getting away from you is a 3-second grenade. Do you have any counter for the 3-second grenade becomes the question. I think you just pray you resist it, and then he's gone again, which is not a bad bet. I mean, I guess you're either resisting a grenade, you're being very proactive, and you're looking for a grenade resist, or you're being somewhat passively proactive. Proactive as in pushing him up against the corner, but passively in the sense that you're looking for the frost resist on the ice trap. It could have just as easily been that you blocked the scatter shot, and then the hunter's like, oh shit. But moral of the story is, once you physically get on top of them and ice trap is no longer an option on the table, Mugga Hurt is just going to fucking kill them. Especially if you know what you're doing with it. So, for example, if I get the 10-second stun right as my freedom wears off, I'm not casting another freedom until the 10-second. I'm not doing anything. It's like I'm at 50% minus 50% movement speed. He's at 50% minus 50%. He's at minus 50% movement speed. I'm not casting my freedom again until that 10-second Mugga Hurt slow wears off. And if it wants to reapply, or if Chili wants to apply again, I'm still going to hold on to my freedom. And you end up getting this. You end up getting like a metric shit ton of time on target once you time it out. And it doesn't take a lot of luck to do so. So you basically just get to beat them to death. The moral of the story is, hunters, if you stack enough MP5 and you're not a retard and you get a Mugga Hurt, they really can't do anything against you. They're just going to die over time. And I have heard reports that there is a spell power version of a hunter. So there's like hunters that stack spell power gear, but they don't go like the survivalist melee route. They go like a range damage route, and that might be a little scary. I haven't ever dueled that though, and it's probably the rarest thing. It's like the rare of the rare times rare multiplied by rare. Never going to see it in a million years. But that is kind of a thing that could actually be a thing. The other thing to mention is, since this is a Reckoning build, and we are looking at a metric shit ton of MP5, blah, 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 blah. What would probably be smart to do is, if you can't catch the hunter for like a million years, like let's say the pet is dead, the hunter is you're still in the blue because you got MP5, and you're just stuck in this game of, I'm trying to catch this piece of shit, but he's actually really hard to catch. Switch out of a sword and board and go into your big two-handed weapon, especially since you're a Reckoning Paladin. There's no reason not to get those Reckoning charges going, because eventually you will clash with him. Like you're giving up the chance to block, if you can even block, a scatter shot. But in return, you can get a full-blown Wreck Bomb going. Knowing Drakova, he'll probably split the difference, though, and go with something like a Deathbringer, the two-handed axe from Onyxia. And that way he's got a decent bomb once he closes with the target, and he's still got the shield for blocking purposes. But really, he's just going to wait for his moment, and when he gets on top of you, he's just going to pull out a Mugga Hurt, and he's not going to screw up, and the hunter's just going to freaking die. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, how you essentially deal with a hunter. With my build that's more spell power oriented, even I go heavy MP5 versus a hunter. Like, I'll start switching out the trinkets. Like, I will take the Shard Scale trinket. It only drops off Onyxia. I've never actually seen this thing drop off Onyxia. That sucks. And I'll go a Rejuvenating Gem, and I'll take the MP5 shield. And I won't bother with this other stuff. I don't even think I have this stuff. I don't have the trinket. Phalistar's the Corrupt. Yeah, okay. But Yeah, I lean heavily on rank 1 Flash of Light. Like I focus less on super heavy MP5 and I lean more on rank 1 Flash of Light. And I guess I just get the job done anyways. Because to be perfectly honest, this amount of MP5 Drakova has going here is overkill. Like but he kind of needs it again because he's reckoning. He's not a deep holy paladin. I got to keep emphasizing that. So as like a holy reckoning paladin, you can probably go more DPS oriented and less MP5 oriented. But as a reckoning paladin, nah, you're much better. You need the more MP5 and just make yourself unkillable and let Muggerhurt do the work for you. But yeah, so anyways, I guess it's the first balanced druids as well. Okay, I guess we could talk about that. Derp. So this gear is almost identical. You could use this gear for fighting virtually any druid, mind you. But the moral of the story with fighting druids is if you have MP5, they don't have enough damage to kill you. The end. Like literally the end. And then you're going to be stuck trying to chase these guys around for a million years. Once you catch them, and the only real way you're going to catch a druid will be you can catch a druid every now and then by doing the same thing you do against a hunter, which is centering them, as it's called. It's strafe chasing them. You run parallel to them, slowly closing the distance and being mindful of where the edge of the duel circle is. Me and Drakova are both big fans of tabletop games like Fantasy and Warhammer 40k, and the concept of centering, of being in the middle of the board. If you don't know those games, think of it like chess. The concept of having your pieces in the middle of the board, and subsequently you can kind of go anywhere. It happens the same way. You can also think of it like tag. If you're trying to like pin somebody up against the wall, you don't run straight at them because they'll just run away. Instead, you're slowly closing the distance, but you're mirroring their movements in the parallel as you push them up against the wall. So inevitably, you will catch a druid in a dueling circle, right? You will get a chance to hit them, and then all you're looking for is Muggerhurt to come in. And then you because druids cannot get out of the 10-second slow from a Muggerhurt. They can't spider belt out of it. They can't shift out of it. It does have a 10% proc rate, but the sad truth is that God help them if you're using a frost oil and chili, is that there's chilling enchant, because they're so low mana at that point that they can't even get out of it from there. And when they finally do get out of it, you just stun them. And then there's a high probability that you reapplied the slow on them during the course of the stun before they can even get away. And he's got the gear that he's making his stun like a 35 second cooldown. Where's Grand Marshals? Here it is. So on top of that, he'll use a grenade, because you might as well save the grenade stun for trying to re-catch a druid as opposed to trying to actually catch up to them in the first place and hope Muggerhurt works. But he's just going to beat you to death. There's just no chance to kill the paladin, and inevitably RNG is going to be on the side of the paladin versus either the hunter or the balancing druid or whatever freaking kiting class is trying to run away from us. Eventually, Muggerhurt is going to pull through, and because this is a fairly hefty spell power build, you're just going to get beat to death. Like that is the moral of the story. Against balanced druids, it would be significantly harder to heal as a reckoning paladin under these conditions, but the simple truth of the matter is, you are so tanky. He's got 4,800 hit points, and you've got so much mana regeneration that you really don't care. Like balanced druids simply do not do enough burst damage, especially if you stay at a decent distance from them, to really threaten you. Like, you just, okay, fine, we're doing this. We'll do the mana war for a while. Let me heal myself, even though I suck at healing myself. Oh no, you got out my AGM. Ooh, oh no, I have to bubble. Oh, are you now? Okay, I'm going to start running at you. So, whoa, just spilled water everywhere. So, the moral of the story, and you can go test this out yourself, is MP5 is king in endurance fights with Paladin. It's kind of the same with resists. So, like, for example, if you're fighting a warlock and you go into like we saw in the previous video, You go into like heavy resist suits versus a warlock, you're unkillable, yes. But what's really doing it for you in those heavy resist suits is still MP5. Like MP5 is still your boy in those resist suits. So it's definitely not something to underestimate. I'm trying to think about any other builds where any other matchups where MP5 is kind of a big deal. It's a little bit of a big deal versus mages, but you really just should go solid DPS versus a mage under the vast majority of circumstances. We're still trying to figure out how to really fight with mages. MP5 is actually not that important against shadow priests. But interestingly, against well-geared, like, discipline priests, MP5 actually suddenly becomes a thing that you actually kind of want. Because Shadow Resist doesn't work on Disc Priests, right? You're like, oh yeah, they do less damage. But since your Shadow Resist doesn't work, they will mess you up. Like a well-geared Discipline Priest is kind of scary. So if you go at them with more MP5, a fast weapon, do the thing. Like I found out recently that I was worried that priests could downrank their their dispel, right? Because they have like rank 1 dispel, rank 2 dispel, and I was like, oh shit. Well, if they downrank their rank 1 dispel, they're trading at a manative. If they're using their rank 1 dispel, they're trading mana with you at an almost positive, right? Not a huge positive, but definitely a positive. And I got a hold of a friend of mine who's a Grand Marshal Priest on our server, and I was dueling with him, and I was beating him in my current gear quite badly. And I was asking about that. I was like, can't you use a rank 1 dispel to get rid of this wisdom shit I'm doing on you? And he's like, no, it's actually 258 mana, and you can't downrank it, I guess, for some reason. Don't ask me why, but I guess once you train it up that it dispels like 2 effects or something, that there is no down rank of that, I guess. So whatever, I'll just have to take his word for it. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, I'll definitely do more videos like this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is more of a, I'll point this out as a last statement for General Paladins. It is not necessary by any stretch of the imagination to use a heavy MP5 gear set to beat a hunter. The MP5 set is really super effective against a hunter if you are stuck in a dueling circle with them. If you are in BGs or if you are out in the world, then my previous Paladin vs. Hunter guide becomes much, much more applicable, where there are things out in the world like pets. There are paladin pets out in the world, meaning there are mobs out in the world that you can aggro on, and they will get you out of frost traps. They will allow you to beat on them to get your mana back. There's a completely different line of play to beating a hunter out in the open world, and that line of play almost always revolves around the use of like speed potions and world pets. And but the story is the same. You're countering and or getting them to use up all of their get the hell off me abilities, like a grenade or a scatter shot, for example. And you're just physically getting on top of them with Mug a Hurt. And once that happens, they're fucking dead. And how do I say this? That is kind of a true story for virtually all of the Paladin specs. Like, for example, if Drakova was fighting a hunter out in the real world, and the hunter was dumb enough to give him the opportunity to let him get on top of him, which is a bit of it's not the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do in open world fights or in BGs. He might not even use a Mug a Hurt. He'll probably just try to kill the hunter outright within the few seconds that he has from like stunning the hunter, for example. But if he fails, or if he senses he's going to fail at that, I guarantee you he's going into a Mug a Hurt, right? Like he'll put the bomb into the guy. He might wait for another auto swing, but right after that, it's just safety time going for the Mug a Hurt. But to be perfectly honest, he's probably throwing frost oil on his two-handed weapon, so he probably just straight up kills them if he ever makes contact. This is not, what I'm saying is this is not a build for open world fighting. If you fought a hunter in the open world with this build, let me think. Yeah, you would eventually kill them still. Like, you're still literally unkillable. You can get some pally pets out in the world. And eventually, at that point, it's not about resisting the frost trap. Or the ice trap. It's about resisting the nade. So, for example, you use a nade on the hunter. The hunter gets stunned. You close distance with the hunter. The only thing the hunter has to get you physically off of them at that point is their own nade. And if you resist that, then you're pretty much good to go. Especially since I think you can close the distance enough that you can get within, like, a Hammer of Wrath. One last thing that comes to mind that I forgot to mention is the power of Seal of Justice in this matchup. So, Seal twisting in a Seal of Justice, because the 2-second stun from Seal of Justice does not share cooldown with any of the other stuns. Like, it does not share cooldown with any of the other stuns. If you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh shit, this guy's going to get away from me, right? Like, nothing's procced, nothing's stunned. Maybe you resisted the stun you were saving for, like, he's an orc hunter. He resists the stun that you're saving to try to get between one freedom to the next freedom. Just go Justice. Like, literally just Seal twist in Justice immediately. Go for that 2-second stun. That by the time you mentally recognize the need to twist into the Seal of Justice, the hunter will probably be barely getting away from you, and that Seal of Justice might come in. Like, it's 2 seconds, and there's 4 seconds between it's a 2-second stun, and there's 4 seconds between your freedoms. However, you can allow your enemy to kind of run away from you for like a second, then you stun them for 2 seconds, you get physically back on top of them, and then by the time, as they try to get out of melee range again, your freedom's back up, right? So you basically, what is it? It's like 8 yards or something that you have melee range. So we're playing basically within that 8 yards. If I remember correctly, let me see if I can remember correctly. I think is it 8 or 9 yards? I can't remember how many yards it is for a second of running, but you can basically see what I mean. You see the hunter getting away from you. The hunter is getting away. Your stun failed. You need to do something about it. It's going to be 3 seconds before you can use your next freedom. Twist in a Justice. If you get that Justice stun, you're golden. You can get back on top of them. 2 seconds goes by. They cannot get away from you. You cannot get out of melee range before your next freedom is up. So the high-level play against a hunter, and it goes for the balanced druid as well, if you see them starting to get away from you, is just twist in the Justice. But you really want to save the twisting in of the Justice specifically for, well, there's a nuance to this statement. So the only other time you'd want a Seal of Justice twist would be you desperately need a flash of light, and somehow that's going to do it, but that's going to be an extreme rare case event and will probably only happen more with the balanced druids than anything else. But 9 times out of 10, you want to use it in between that freedom cycle. Against the balanced druid, you're using it in the same scenario of you see them getting away from you. Like something has gone wrong, your weapon hasn't procced, your stun got resisted, or you're just playing out of stuns. He's starting to get away from you. Now is the time to start twisting. Yeah. But that's a bit of a high-level play. You can practice it. It's actually really easy, according to Drakova, to get off the 2-second stun. I think it's got like a 33% success rate that it happens or something like that, maybe higher. But yeah, totally. Mugaherd is fast enough. You can totally get that down. But yeah, so I guess I'm going to stop talking about this because it's probably been a really long time, and I'll just make sure to make another video tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy. See you later.